What's up, America? I want to bring something to your attention that happened during the Biden administration that was a source of a lot of contention dealing with Ukraine. There was $180 billion. I think this was the first check they wanted to cut. Republicans were holding it up. Mike Johnson was in the crosshairs of the oligarchs, of the elite, to push this vote from Republicans across the finish line. They even took him into the skiff, it is alleged, to get him to understand how important this was to Democrats and the world. For those of us that care to remember, Kevin McCarthy was Speaker of the House. Him and Matt Gaetz and other people of Congress got into a heated conversation over this vote. Towards the end of this conversation with Kevin McCarthy, another gentleman walked up and wanted to physically attack Matt Gaetz after this conversation, after Kevin McCarthy had walked off. This bill was a lot of source of contention in Congress with Republicans and Democrats. Republicans were holding up the bill, rightfully so, because we were sending money overseas at a moment's notice, knowing that we have issues here within our own United States that was not getting addressed with the same level of intensity and attention. You have our elected officials fighting over funding to Ukraine. Who was fighting for those people in North Carolina during that storm? Who was fighting for the people of Tennessee? Who was fighting for the people of Florida? Who was fighting for any people in a weather event situation in the United States? You had FEMA representatives allegedly bypassing Trump supporters because they had signs in their yard. And they were told by management, not upper level management, but middle level management, that if you saw a person with a Trump supporter sign in their yard, bypass them and go to the next house.
The chair would remind my colleagues to observe proper decorum. Flag waving on the floor is not appropriate. The chair would remind my colleagues to observe proper decorum. Flag waving on the floor is not appropriate.
Have you ever seen Congress this excited about approving funding for flood victims in the United States? I've always wondered why they were so happy that they approved this funding for Ukraine. I think I have an answer for you, and you're going to be surprised and shocked, and you're going to see why DOGE is such a huge factor and a huge thorn in the side of the Democrats. I have an article I want to share with you. Let's read it together. Congress appropriated $174.2 billion through the 5 Ukraine Supplemental Appropriation Acts enacted by fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2024, of which $163.6 billion was allocated for OAR and the Ukraine response. What is OAR? OAR is Operation Atlantic Resolve. Is a U.S. military operation that supports NATO and Ukraine in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The operation includes rotational deployments of U.S. forces to Europe as well as security assistance to Ukraine. Goals: deter Russian aggression against NATO, reassure and strengthen the NATO alliance, provide security assistance to Ukraine, increase interoperability between ally and partner militaries, and build readiness. Now, why is this so important? Let's see where the funding goes, or what other agencies the funding goes to OAR. Allow me to turn your attention to a press release by Special Inspector General issues latest quarterly report to Congress for Operation Atlantic Resolve. And if you look at the date, November 14, 2024. Now, who is the Special Inspector General for Operation Atlantic Resolve? That would be Special Inspector General for Operation Atlantic Resolve, DOD Inspector General Robert P. Storch, announced today the release of the 4th quarterly report on OAR to the United States Congress. This is the Honorable Robert P. Storch, is the Inspector General of the Department of Defense. He was confirmed by the U.S. Senate on November 30th, 2022, and assumed his responsibilities at the DOD Office of Inspector General in early December 2022. Here is where it's about to get interesting. What is an Inspector General report? An Inspector General IG report is a written document that summarizes the findings of an investigation or review. IGs are independent watchdogs who investigate fraud, waste, and abuse within their organizations. The Inspector General report summarizes U.S. funding programs and operations from July 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2024 in support of Ukraine and the broader response to Russia's full-scale investigation, including support for the Ukrainian armed forces, support for NATO partners, and U.S. military, diplomatic, and humanitarian activity. The report describes the oversight work of the DOD, state, and USAID offices of Inspector General, the Government of Accountability, and the other members of the Ukraine Oversight Interagency Working Group. It is right there in the report itself. Now you got to remember, this was what, November 14th, 2024? This report was given to Congress on this date. Now, President was elected. He was president-elect. He wasn't in office or inaugurated until January 20th. And we didn't know anything about USAID. But there it is, right there in the report. USAID. Thank God for DOGE. Thank God for you people who elected President Trump. Thank God for all of you who went in that booth and pulled that lever for 47. For the Donald. Where would we be? Just imagine for a moment if Kamala Harris had won. We wouldn't know anything about USAID than we knew before DOGE. So before you all listen to legacy media and their nonsense and lies, they can't, understand this. They can't tell you the truth now. They can't double down. They have to double down on their lies. They can't back up after 10 years of ostracizing and excoriating President Trump since he came down that escalator. They can't switch gears now. They cannot switch horses. They have to double down on their foolishness. That's why the majority of the coverage you're going to see against President Trump is going to be negative. Anything they do negative, just like Schumer tried to blame a plane crash in Canada, of all places, on the president. You're going to see more and more and more of that because the Democrats have no answer to what is coming. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. That's all I have for you. You all have a blessed day. I'm out.